On today's show, the Capitals make it two in a row, and the Dallas Stars are undefeated no more.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about how the Capitals make it 2 in a row and the Dallas Stars are undefeated no more. Who saw this coming? All the insiders, all the players, and all the people that are projecting odds, very few of them had the Capitals defeating the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars, at the end of the day, were undefeated. And this Capitals team, well, they weren't really poised to do anything this year. That's what they all said. I think the Capitals, firing on all cylinders, are proving a lot of people wrong already this season. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll talk about which players stepped up. One of the things that Spencer Carberry said is that it's going to have to be goal scoring by committee. It can't just be Alex Ovechkin. It can't be one line scoring 100 goals. They're going to need to have goal scoring up and down the lineup. Who are those players that stepped up? And then in the last segment, we'll talk about special teams and how they performed against the Stars. But just to get it going here, wow, what an evening for the Capitals. I had hoped that they would find a way to win this game, as I thought it was going to be a good momentum builder as they were coming off another great win over the Golden Knights as well. I think that sky's the limit for the Capitals. And who thought that coming into this season? Well, I kind of did. I saw the additions that the Capitals made this offseason in the form of Pierre-Luc Dubois, Mangiapane, Chychrun, Roy, Logan Thompson. And even though there were a lot of big moves that were made, many people scoffed. Many people said, that those were small moves, but ultimately not enough to make the Capitals contenders. And to be fair, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I do understand that this is the very beginning of the year, and the Capitals have only won 2 games. I get it, but I am still riding a high and feeling overly optimistic about this team already. And the biggest takeaway from the game tonight was the resilience in overcoming a challenging start against the Stars, who had been unbeaten. Key contributions from players like Tom Wilson, who has been an absolute beast out there, who scored for the 3rd consecutive game, and Dylan Strome, who maintained a point streak, were crucial. The second line showcased strong offensive and defensive play, helping shift momentum in the second period. Additionally, the Capitals' penalty kill excelled, going 4 for 4, while the power play struggled, highlighting areas for improvement going forward. So it wasn't all good. It wasn't all gravy. There were things that they need to work on, as to be expected. Overall, the Capitals demonstrated their ability to rally and secure a victory, indicating a promising start to the season. And earlier today, I was listening to NHL radio on Sirius, and they were talking about, how great the Dallas Stars are. And man, they're going to be the team to beat. And I still think they are. I mean, they're off to a great start, but how sweet is it that the Capitals were the ones to hand them their very first loss of the season? I'm loving it. I got to be honest with you. And the game started and the momentum was tilted towards the Stars. And everything that I entered into this game was, I felt like my feelings on the game were sullied a little bit just based on all the chatter that I hear from the outside. But Tom Wilson made his mark by scoring for the third consecutive game, catalyzing a significant offensive push in the second period, despite a lackluster first period that saw the Capitals down 1-0 due to a shorthanded goal and only 4 shots on goal. And when there was that breakaway and he scored a goal, I'm like, is this how this is going to start? Because if you take a look at the Dallas Stars, they are a team. If they get the lead, if they have the momentum, oftentimes they will ride that momentum right till the final buzzer. For the Capitals, they had that tenacity. They had that pushback. So talking about that, none in the initial 10 minutes, the team needed a boost heading into the second period. The second line played a crucial role in this turnaround, with Wilson proving to be a key offensive force. And isn't it interesting that when we let Tom Wilson concentrate on scoring goals instead of being the resident tough guy, the great things that follow? That, hey, listen, everyone that's not a Capitals fan out there that might be listening to this podcast, Tom Wilson is a legitimate goal scorer. He is not that junkyard dog. He is not a Reeves. He is not a Rempe. He is not a Maroon. He is a legitimate goal scorer. And I think that the idea of having McElrath on the team and in the lineup as a deterrent is a really good thing. So if there is someone that's going to fight, Wilson will do it, but let's keep him doing what he does best and score goals, as been apparent and what has kept the Capitals going in a great direction. Following Wilson's goal, the Capitals gained momentum, altering their strategy to simplify their game and apply more offensive pressure. And they had to simplify it against a Dallas Star team that is constantly cycling, constantly circling, trying to tie your head in knots. That the Capitals slowed down their game. They weren't trying to meet fire with fire. They were trying to make the game come to them and slow down the momentum. And that is ultimately why they were successful. Dylan Strome, who led the team last year to start the season in goals and led the team in points at the end of the year, has been huge once again for the Capitals. Dylan Strome contributed with a long-range shot that brought the score to 2-1, assisted by screens from Alex Ovechkin and Protas. And when I was watching the footage there, and they were having an interview with Aliaksei Protas, it was Al Koken. Either Al Koken is really short or Aliaksei Protas is really tall, but wow, that guy is huge. And I guess I never saw him stand next to a normal height guy. It's, next to Alex Ovechkin, who's a big dude in his own right. But Protas is huge. So to have Ovechkin and Protas screen the goalie, let's do a whole lot of more of that. That was very successful and a really good play that was drawn up there. This marks Strome's third consecutive game with points. Exemplifying what I was talking about is scoring by committee. It can't be just Ovechkin. It can't be, the players from before. It has to be up and down the lineup. And for the Capitals in quite some time, I think they have that. Talking about that offensive momentum, the turning play, that began with Connor McMichael's effective forechecking, allowing Pierre-Luc Dubois to transition the puck to Wilson. Wilson charged into the slot, scoring his third goal of the season, marking a strong start to the 24-25 campaign. This second line faced a robust challenge, often matching up against formidable opponents and Roope Hintz and Jason Robertson. Nevertheless, they executed their tasks well, particularly with McMichael's dynamic skating and high awareness on both ends of the ice. And Connor McMichael has grown by leaps and bounds. Last summer was the summer that I said it needed to be the season for Connor McMichael. And what was it? He was rewarded with that, and I think that he has taken steps forward. He was key for the Hershey Bears winning a Calder Cup a couple years ago. A lot of those players went into the Calder Cup as boys and left as men. Hendrix Lapierre, who I'll talk about as well, I think that really helped grow their game. So all things considered, Capitals fans, you should be holding your head high, as this was a big win over a truly great hockey team. Can they keep it rolling? The ball is in the Capitals' court. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about which players in particular made the biggest impact. I'll talk about that straight ahead. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You can just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play. Even if one of your players gets injured, if your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineups live. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get your $50 instantly after you play your first $5 bet. That's use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So there were a lot of standout players in this game. A lot of questions going into this game, what the lineup was going to look like, who was going to be in net. Would the Capitals have kept going with Logan Thompson since he was so lights out against the Golden Knights? If I was the coach, if I was Spencer Carberry, that is what I would have done, but the Capitals went back to Chucky Sideburns, the outlaw, and he played a really great game, all things considered. I'm not surprised. I don't think that, Logan Thompson is going to run away with it. I think that during the season, it's going to be very competitive, to be honest with you. At the end of the day, like I talked about, one of those netminders is going to walk away with an extension, and tonight, well, I think that Charlie Lindgren made it rather interesting by playing very well. So you have Logan Thompson playing well. You have Charlie Lindgren. It is fixing to be a big battle. And then the big question, of course, as well, is what was the first line going to look like? We saw in the last game what it looked like with Aliaksei Protas. We saw it with Strome and Alex Ovechkin on the right wing. Again, that was how it was penciled out. That wasn't actuality for the duration of the game. Alex Ovechkin still has a way of kind of weaving his way over to the left a little bit. But all things considered, I thought the Capitals played very, very well. John Carlson and what other players really popped off the page and got the Capitals into the win column. John Carlson extended his point streak to 3 games with an assist on Dylan Strome's second period goal. Aliaksei Protas shown by recording points in back-to-back games and leading the team with 4 shots. And just to kind of reminisce and look back on Aliaksei Protas, how he has grown as a player as well. It was just a few seasons ago that he came into camp and didn't have any real high hopes that, he was going to be one of these young players in camp. And the feeling was that he would then get sent down to Hershey at some point. But he played so well that the Capitals could not send him down, and he has continued to grow his game. And, I didn't really see it in the cards, but Aliaksei Protas on that top line has been a really good fit. Hendrix Lapierre drew 2 penalties and showcased improved strength compared to his previous outings. Martin Fehervary was absolutely huge in this game towards the end of the game. In particular, Martin Fehervary stood out defensively, leading the team with 5 blocked shots. And to underline that, the Capitals could have very well lost the lead if Martin Fehervary did not lay himself out the way that he did. So it wasn't just even goal scoring by committee. It was a whole team pulling on that collective rope that got the Capitals the big win. Again, against truly great odds with the Dallas Stars, a team that is firing on all cylinders. And again, I'm not here to diminish the team and what they've accomplished, but it is extra sweet that the Capitals were able to be that team to hand them their first loss. Now, how can they continue to build on this going forward in this weekend's games? I'm talking about that I would keep going with the lineup as is. Don't fix it if it's not broke, as they always say. And the first line, I would keep rolling with that as well. I think that Aliaksei Protas played really well in that top line. And that was exemplified by having Protas and Alex Ovechkin screening the netminder so Strome could drive it home. And then not to be lost in all of this, as well as Radish scoring a goal. So that fourth line being clutch as well. And it's interesting that year after year, even though the lineups change, that fourth line has always been such an excellent line for the Capitals. But looking at the box in particular, like I talked about, Dylan Strome a goal, Wilson a goal, Taylor Radish a goal. There was a lot to like in this game. And then even taking a look at the defensive players who played a huge role out there. Tom Wilson eating up a lot of minutes for the Capitals. I don't think we could have asked for much more. And then Charlie Lindgren saving 22 of 24. A lot to love about this game. And if you have any friends out there that are thinking to themselves, or maybe they had a conversation with you that, hell, you're a Capitals fan. Well, didn't you hear? Didn't you get the memo? They're not going to be a very good team this year. Say, hey, maybe you want to check the box score. Maybe you want to check the standings. This team is really good. And that was exemplified tonight. It was, the goal scoring was a big factor, but also defensively, Charlie Lindgren being huge and Martin Fehervary doing what he does best, laying himself out and throwing his body around. This was a huge win for the Capitals, a huge morale boost. And I think that going into this weekend, the Capitals should enter into it with a little bit of swagger, not too much swagger. That can get you in trouble and fall into what they call a trap game. But all things considered, this Capitals team was a knockout. Now, not to be a revisionist, not to rewrite history. The first period was a bit rough, but I would have it no other way, because what did it prove to everyone? That, if you took a look at the Capitals last season, if they lost the lead or say the other team scored first, the Capitals players would kind of hide into their shell like this and say, just tell me when it's over. Not this year's team. They didn't have the lead first. In the second period, they battled back. And I think that is going to be the identity of this team this season. And again, I know that I'm saying this very early, but that is what I'm dealing with right now in a very small sample size. Is I think that this team is not going to be like the team that we saw last year. And people are going to say, well, of course not, Dan. It's a lot of different players. And that's a big thing. And let's not forget about how the Capitals got where they are right now and how things could have been that much different for this team. Let's take a look at Kuznetsov and that contract falling off the books because he terminated his contract. Let's take a look at TJ Oshie going on the LTIR. Let's take a look at Nick Backstrom going on the LTIR. That, the BMAC went out and made some big moves. But if it wasn't for those players and everything happening just the way that it did, this could be a whole lot different of a Capitals team this year. Say they still had Kuznetsov on this team. So I'm really happy, and I'm happy to see these players step up. We saw that tonight. Those were the players that got the win. It's not like the days of old. Well, the Capitals won, and Alex Ovechkin is waving the flag. He played a role, don't get me wrong, but it's not the old Capitals where it was just one or two players. This team is in a unique position that they haven't been in quite some time, where they have scoring up and down the lineups. There is no true weakness in their armor. I take a look at the third line in particular as well, in the first game, and I know, we're pushing the panic button in the first game. That didn't work as that line was on the ice for the New Jersey Devils' first 3 goals. So what did Spencer Carberry do? He went out and changed things. And despite what a lot of the talking heads say that, don't panic. It's going to look like you're panicking if you change the lineup this early. He did just that. What did he do? He put Jacob Vrana in there. He put Aliaksei Protas on the top line. He put Alex Ovechkin on the right wing. Let's not be afraid of shaking things up. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I think that this is a really good match out there. And again, I hope they keep rolling forward with these lineups and see if it can continue to help this team roll into the win column. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about special teams and how they performed for the Caps. I'll discuss straight ahead. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday, there is a lot of football to be played. And on some of those days, your favorite team might be playing, maybe the Commanders or the Ravens, but sometimes your team isn't playing. And how can you get interested on football? Because it's Sunday and I want to watch football. Open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game. All of a sudden, those games got that much more exciting. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And isn't it frustrating that your favorite band came to town, your favorite stand-up comedian, your sports team is playing, and you're looking at tickets, but there are a lot of options out there, and you have questions. Are you going to be able to find tickets? And what is the view of the stage or the field or the playing surface going to be from where I'm sitting? So go to Game Time, as they take a lot of the guesswork out of buying tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So in this episode, we're talking about your victorious Capitals as they played spoiler and they handed the Dallas Stars their first loss of the season. And how does that taste, Dallas Stars? Could probably use a little bit more seasoning. In any event, the Capitals won this game by committee, exactly the way Spencer Carberry said it should be won, that it is not a team that is going to be able to rely on one or two goal scorers. It's not going to be a team that is going to rely solely on a stout defense, that it's going to have to be the collective. And how did the special teams perform on the Capitals tonight? A bit of a mixed bag, if you want me to be honest with you. The Capitals special teams here, the penalty kill has been notably effective, currently ranking 8th in the league after successfully killing all 4 penalties against the Stars in the recent game. Protas has been a vital part of this effort, generating strong shorthanded opportunities. However, the power play has struggled, showing issues with zone entries and scoring execution. A crucial misplay by John Carlson led to a shorthanded goal for Colin Blackwell in the first period. And those are the things that are kind of starting to rear their ugly head. Special teams were a weakness for the Capitals last year. I wouldn't say that it's a glaring deficiency for the Caps this year, but it's something that could be fixed. And I think that any team, anytime, anywhere, has things they need to work on. There is not a perfect team in any sport out there. It's all things for the Capitals to work on. Power play troubles. While the Capitals managed to record power play goals in their first 2 games, they faced difficulties in their latest outing, finishing 0 for 5 on the man advantage. So those are the things to clean up. As I'm talking PK, I'm talking PP. Those are all key things that can tie into your team's success or failure. If you don't make good on opportunities that are kind of served up to you on a golden platter, then don't be surprised if your team loses some of those, and you take a look at it. This is a game that, I'm kind of full of myself and gloating about this game like I was on the ice or something, but it could have gone in a different direction. If Martin Fehervary, for example, did not do what he needed to do, then I think the Capitals could have lost this game towards the end. There was some really great execution in the goal scoring out there, like I talked about with Protas and Ovechkin. Really good. But, like these games, it was not a blowout. It could have gone in either direction. So things that you need to shore up, that you need to solidify are your special teams. I'm talking PK. And I'm talking PP. Again, it's much too early in the season to be looking for that panic button, but it's something that needs to be addressed, or those things can become issues down the road. When you start running the hard analytics about the games that you would have won had you had scored a power play goal or you had killed off a penalty, those are the things, especially later in the season when you're fighting to get into the playoffs. See the Capitals last year where it came down to the last game of the season and their struggles that they had on the special teams units as well. So all things for the Capitals to work on, their coaches in particular, and I know Spencer Carberry and his assistants are going to have their working orders and, going over game footage of how are we going to clean this up. Not to panic now, but again, these are things that need to get shored up before these problems can fester into bigger things. But ultimately, as I walk away from this game, the Capitals played very good, did the unthinkable. And I like in situations when a lot of people are dismissive about your team that you do the thing that they said your team couldn't do. And tonight, the Capitals beat a team that everyone thought they shouldn't. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that are listening on the audio side and watching this on YouTube. You are what makes this show successful. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, and I'll talk to you again next time.